The other problem with it for the left is that they're embarrassed because they actually did either actually believe him or just openly pretended to believe him. And now they look like fools. Here are 3 examples together. Stephanie Ruhle from June, Mika Brzezinski from June, and former Deputy U.S. Attorney Andrew Weissman, who's an MSNBC fixture. It's a montage of him. Take a listen.
Their latest attack has been that Joe Biden has politicized and weaponized the DOJ, right? That was the whole argument around Donald Trump's conviction. And this week, of course, Hunter Biden was found guilty, and Joe Biden has very clearly said he would not pardon his son, he would not commute his sentence. How stark is this difference? I mean, how can Republicans keep making this argument now that Joe Biden has really put it out there? Where's Hunter? And he stood there in a courtroom, flanked by his family, and he's accepted his sentence.
The current president of the United States has so much respect for the law that he has said he would not pardon his son. I mean, again, it's all about the contrast.
President Biden saying, I will respect whatever this jury decides versus Donald Trump after he was convicted on 34 counts, saying the entire system is rigged against him.
He is not pardoning his son. Which he could do. These are federal charges. Right. He is not doing that. He is not doing it because he is living what it means to have a rule of law in this country. He did not pardon his son. He did not order the Department of Justice to say, don't prosecute my son. So impressive. Contrast is so clear in terms of decency and principle and transactional guidance in terms of how you view the world. What is before us is a president who is living the rule of law. He is living it in the most personal way. What he is actually living by is his own son is being prosecuted, and he is allowing the norms that are required to live in a democracy to go forward.
Getting a little misty-eyed, Rich. That was quite moving. They've humiliated themselves.
Oh, totally. And it also goes to, it's easier to lie when you're a Democrat because you have all these people with major media platforms just willing to swallow it. And what contempt does Joe Biden have for his media allies, right? If you're a man of decency and you've lied and you have other people making idiots of themselves by believing their lies, you might feel a little guilty about that. Apparently none whatsoever. They were played like fools. And look, some of these people might be sincere about protecting democratic norms, but Joe Biden was always a horrible vessel for it. And it's just a symptom of our time that people can't say, you know what, I don't like Trump, but Biden is a dishonest hack who's been peddling, his family's been benefiting off his name forever, right? Both those things can be true, but they won't. They needed to put him on a pedestal that was made out like it was this steadfast marble that can never be toppled. And the thing was styrofoam all along. It was a complete lie from the beginning to the end.
And here's the thing, just to put the lie to the lie, back to that portion of the statement that you referenced, Charlie, that I didn't yet read. For my entire career, I have followed a simple principle. Just tell the American people the truth. They'll be fair-minded. Well, here's the truth. I believe in the justice system, but as I have wrestled with this, I also believe raw politics has infested this process and it led to a miscarriage of justice. And once I made this decision this weekend, there was no sense in delaying further. Okay, nothing has happened between his June statements that he would not pardon Hunter and now to change any of the facts that he's relying on in his statement for why he's doing the pardon. Like everything that he's pointing to happened before Hunter was found guilty in June, which is the case only came about after several of my political opponents in Congress instigated them to attack me. We've shown the audience that that's not true, but that even if that is true, that all happened well before June, where he said he was not going to pardon them. Then a carefully negotiated plea deal fell apart. That, again, happened long before June. Hunter was singled out only because he's my son, blah, blah, blah. This is all before June. So then he finishes it with, I've always followed a simple principle. Just tell the American people the truth. Here's the truth. The raw politics has infested this process, blah, blah, blah. So, there's absolutely no question that it's all a lie. And he doesn't really care whether people know it or not. And I actually wondered whether, you're right, he didn't want sentencing to happen, but I actually wondered, because he could have done it on like Thursday night. If you really want to bury something over Thanksgiving holiday, you release it Wednesday night or Thursday night when people are with their families. I actually wondered whether this is a middle finger to the media, because it's going to get coverage if you do it the Sunday before the Monday that all the press returns to the news cycle, most of whom are too lazy to go back and figure out what happened over the past 6 days and would much prefer to focus on new red meat that is pretty easy to understand. I almost think he wanted to rub their noses in it, Charles.
He may have. I think this is such a great example of how the Democrats have used Trump as an excuse for their own desires. Now, I won't defend Trump on this. Trump will definitely abuse the pardon power. Most presidents abuse the pardon power. I actually think the anti-federalists were right about the pardon power on balance. I think probably it needs some sort of congressional review, but it doesn't have it. The president has plenary power here. It's non-justiciable. No one can alter it, oversee it, reverse it. So I fully expect Trump to abuse it as he did last time. But I think what you have seen here is the knowledge, perhaps from the Andrew Weissmans of the world, that whatever happens, he will be able to wiggle out of it by just saying, but Trump. The Joe Biden presidency was the but Trump presidency. People found it hard to make affirmative case for Joe Biden. So they would just say, but Trump. So if Biden ends up winning, or if Harris, once she had taken over, wins, then maybe she pardons him and you can say you were right that Biden didn't do it. If Biden and then Harris lose the election, then you can say, well, we had to pardon him because of Trump. And this is the emerging line now, is that we had to give Hunter Biden a 10-year untrammeled pardon that applies to absolutely everything. Actually, if you look at the way it was written, it gave Hunter Biden sort of 4 hours at the end of the day yesterday where he could have gone out and committed all manner of crimes because the pardon lasted until midnight. But it's a 10-year untrammeled pardon. And the line I've started to see from those who are defending it is, well, we didn't want to do that, but we had to do this because Trump is so vindictive. He's so out of control. He's such a dictator that he was going to come in and then order his Department of Justice to go after Hunter Biden on a frivolous pretext. So it was absolutely necessary for Joe Biden to inoculate his son against the ravages of Trump Hitler. And when you do that, Megyn, what you've done is you've given yourself permission to essentially do whatever you want on the grounds that the other person made you do it. And we've seen this with, say, the Supreme Court, where the worst idea in all of American history, which is, I mean, structurally, not slavery, obviously, is number one, but structurally, it was to pack the Supreme Court. Back in the 1930s, President Roosevelt's own party said, don't do this. This is a tyrannical move. And it became, over the years, this sort of byword for hubris and corruption. Joe Biden himself talked about it in a famous speech in 2006, where he harkened back to the dark days of FDR trying to pack the court. But now the Democrats have to pack the court because of Donald Trump. They have to abolish the filibuster because of Donald Trump. They have to undermine the Electoral College in the Senate because of Donald Trump. And once again, this is the argument that we're seeing, that yes, it is awful to abuse the pardon power in this way, except Trump made them do it. And so I just wonder, if you're Andrew Weissman sitting there at MSNBC, or you're Mika Brzezinski, or you're Stephanie Ruhle, or anyone else who made that case, you sort of know at the back of your head that you have a get out of jail free card, because if Biden does do it, you will be able to say in the same studios to the same people in front of the same audience, well, of course, Biden didn't want to do it, but he had to because of Trump. And all of the people who applauded you the first time around and said, yeah, this is an indication of the integrity of Joe Biden, will just sit there and clap as if that is some sort of meaningful excuse.
That's so true. Here, you don't actually have to wonder. Here's actually a very fun example that we found of MSNBC commentator Molly Jong Fast. Now, here is what she originally said.
You're not going to do this to
you're
not going to do
Brace
this
yourself.
to us, are you, Megyn?
Brace yourself. Here she is in June when he said he was not going to pardon.
I think Joe Biden has a chance here to stand up for the rule of law, to say the law is the law, no matter who it is, no matter if it's Trump or Biden. And remember, part of Trumpism's dangerousness is that it tears down institutions, important institutions of our democracy. So there is an opportunity here for Biden to say, you know, the jury found him guilty. This is how it's supposed to work. Period, paragraph, end of story.
Norms and institutions. And here she was this morning.
Molly, fast and furious. What do you make of this new news?
I just heard it. I have to process it. I don't have a take. I'm sorry.
She just heard it. She went on. That was this morning, was it? So she went on
last
a cable
night.
news
Correct
show.
myself. Last night.
Oh, it was last night.
Yeah.
She
So she couldn't. But she had no idea it was coming, Charles. She was just not like, who knew? Who could have foreseen? And then had a thought that the pardon would come. And here's this on her Blue Sky account. That's the left-wing Twitter that everybody's now running to because they're afraid of Elon. She tweeted this morning, and we're thinking, okay, we're on to something. She tweeted, protect norms and institutions. Protect norms and institutions. I'm like, okay, she's going to let him have it. Protect norms. Yeah, okay. Protect norms and institutions. Protect norms and institutions. And guess what she was tweeting about? This article from Washington Post. Amid worry about Trump, calls for career Justice Department staff to stay. She's saying, don't change the staff at the DOJ. That's what she's tweeting. Norms and institutions. Nothing about the pardon. That I have no take. This reflects poorly on Joe Biden, so I really can't think of anything to say. It's a mystery. Here is, I'll give you another pivot point, Rich, if you don't want to talk about Molly. Because I know you love her and you admire her.
She should get the Jen Rubin. You should give a Jen Rubin Award every week. And Molly is an early contender.
She is, actually. She could be, she's in the same exact field.
Yeah.
MVP. Here is another spin that's coming. Charles is right. The one is but Trump. And here's the other in SOT 8 from Biden's former White House director of message planning, Megan Hayes.
I do think with some of the nominations that Trump has put up, I think it probably caused a little bit of worry for him. But also, I think people have to remember the president has lost 2 children already, and he does not need to lose another one to more political, witch hunts that the president's calling them. He worries about Hunter going to jail. There's a lot of things wrapped up in this. But I think at the end of the day, the president made a decision as a father to keep his son out of jail and out of harm's way moving forward. He, again, does not want to lose another son. He has lost 2 children already, and he does not want this to go on any further once he leaves office.
Didn't want to lose another son.
Oh, that's a medic. That's disgraceful to compare Hunter going to jail for crimes he committed to the tragic deaths of other children is just crazy, right? It's why can't you just say he's a father, he doesn't want to see his son go to jail? End of story. And he doesn't care. He's not going to let any considerations about norms or institutions or anything else trump that personal commitment. That's right. That's something that's true. It's something that kind of people would understand. It's not necessarily very praiseworthy, but it's very human. But they build up this whole edifice where he was something special and had this commitment to democratic norms above everything else. And it was demonstrated by letting this case go forward when it was very easy to let it go forward when it was happening, when the convictions happened, right? There's no way he's going to pardon him right then. These things always happen at the end. And maybe if he'd won again or Kamala had won again, he wouldn't even have to do it at the end of this term, but he would have done it pretty quickly before he went to jail, right? That was always obvious. And they were willfully blind to it to create the story. And Charlie's correct about just the Hitler construct is such a permission slip for them. The Bulwark, the Never Trump publication had a podcast after the election. And one of these guys on the podcast was basically saying, because Trump's Hitler the Democrats need their own Hitler, right? We need a strong man, and we should have changed, we should have jammed through 2 new states, DC and Puerto Rico, to get more senators. We should have packed the court already, on and on. So they become what they think they're opposing. And they can't see it because they're so blinded by hatred to Trump. Trump.
I don't think there's any accident, Charlie, that this is the former White House director of messaging raising. He doesn't want to lose another son. This is what Joe Biden's favorite trick has been.
Yeah, well, leave aside the mawkishness of it, and I've written a great deal about that. Joe Biden uses his son Beau's death as a weapon in a way that he should not. He brings it up in almost every circumstance, many of which are inappropriate. We've heard from the parents of deceased military members who have asked him not to do it. But leave aside the mawkishness of that statement for a moment, which is supposed to tug on your heartstrings and make you ignore the question at hand. And suppose that that is true. That was true in June. So if it is the case that Biden is so upset at the prospect of Hunter going to jail, having lost 2 children, which he did do, and that was horrendous, that he simply cannot allow this to happen, then he should not have spent nearly 6 months promising the American public that he was not going to pardon Hunter Biden. The clips you played were not ambiguous. Sometimes you can wiggle out of language. But the last clip you played at the beginning of this episode, he literally says, I am not going to pardon him. Now that is emphatic and it's absolute. So if it is the case that what she is saying is correct, then that should have been the line from June. It should have been the line whenever Karine Jean-Pierre was asked about it. It should have been the line whenever Biden was asked about it. It should have been the line whenever anyone was asked about it by the New York Times or the Washington Post writing stories on it. You can't, after 6 months of absolutely unqualified promises, then turn around and say, well, I've just remembered that I'm his dad. That's just not how this works.
There is an epidemic affecting 2 out of every 3 Americans. Poor gut health. Processed foods, stress at work, fluoride in the water, and even toxins in the air you breathe can overwhelm your digestive system. You might expect to feel the bloating and heartburn, but the sleepless nights, afternoon crashes, even mood swings, these are all signs your gut may need some attention. While most probiotics get torn apart in your stomach acid, the spore-based strains in Just Thrive probiotic are clinically proven to arrive in your gut 100% alive, creating a fortress of good bacteria that can support digestion, immune system, and mental clarity. Just Thrive Probiotic is a non-GMO and gluten-free product, and you can choose between berry-flavored gummies or easy-to-swallow capsules. You can even open the capsule and mix the contents into your morning coffee or sprinkle it over your food. For over a decade, Just Thrive has been fighting to make Americans healthy again with science-backed solutions you can trust. To join the gut health revolution, visit justthrivehealth.com and save 20% site-wide with promo code Megyn. That's justthrivehealth.com, promo code Megyn. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.